Okay, so my next senior award goes to Max Swearingen. And Max has indicated that next year he's going to college and his intended major is biology. And five favorite memories from band over the 4 years. The first one that you mentioned was going to the mall at in between our prelims and finals performance last year. Yeah, and that day that we went, and I don't know how much of this you remember, but we were kind of in defiance because most of those groups want you to stay and eat at the contest on a prelims final. But it was extremely cold that day. It was like a really weird cold snap in the temperature, and then also there were 8 bands performing in prelims, and then all 8 bands were going to finals. And then we just kind of felt like that was crazy. Why don't you just do the 8 bands and then be done with it? But in a lot of those situations, they try to leave you on site so that you'll buy concessions. So we just decided go ahead, instead of inflicting you guys outside in the weather the entire time, and then you all trying to nestle and find a place to stay warm, because there was no place that you could go inside. You were going to be outside either on the bus or something like that, but we just figured we'd go eat lunch, get a nice lunch, and then that way you all could be inside, and then we take our time and then go back and take care of business. And then if you remember, that evening it was freezing cold. So we felt like it was a good choice, and it was kind of fun because it was kind of a different change of pace for us as far as what we do on a contest day. Then you mentioned the Pit Secret Santa. Now I have not been involved in any of these Secret Santas that you guys do, and I think the clarinets have done one, maybe the flutes, and so there's some of those Secret Santas things that go on, and it's kind of fun that the Pit guys. That you guys are doing that too. Hopefully, you got something good in the Secret Santa. And you also listed as some of your favorite memories is going to New York and Albuquerque. It's funny that you mentioned the two of those in the same context because the two trips could not have been more different. The New York trip being very cosmopolitan, very contemporary, all kinds of hustle bustle, and then the Albuquerque trip being more earthy, more one with nature and the environment and organic. So it's kind of fun that you mentioned those two being your favorites because they could not be more polar opposites. You listed performing at Disney World, and that was I do think this last time when we went to Disney, I did enjoy. We stayed in when we went before a few years before that. We stayed like in condos, houses nearby, and then this past time I decided to let's stay on site. So I think it wasn't maybe a tad bit more expensive, but I think the experience was very different. And because you guys had a lot more freedoms, you had a lot more ability to travel between the parks, and also if there was something happened and you needed something from your room, then you had the flexibility to be able to do that. So it just lent itself for a very different trip. And I think after some of the trips, like the New York trip and some of those things, I wanted a trip where I had less concern of hustle bustle and concern if you guys are going to get run over by a taxi cab or something like that. So I think that the Disney trip was kind of really more so for my peace of mind, but it ended up being really positive. I think you guys, there's a lot of variety things that are there that that are superficial, but then there's some that's really pretty cool. I mean, a lot of the performances and stuff that you see there, are well done. And a lot of the kids that you meet that are working there, they're exceptional. I mean, they are off the charts. So it is pretty special, you being able to do that, and then being able to do that in the context of, with a group and with friends and whatnot. So, and then you also listed here as winning your last contest at at Pinckneyville, the indoor, inside, rained out contest, and that one was kind of a different vibe, a different feel as well. Probably not the way we'd like for it to go and way we'd like for it to end, but nevertheless, we have not. There have been very few, and I think through the last 14 years that I can think of offhand, there have only probably been two contests where we've actually had a stand-in blow. Either the contest would be completely canceled, or we would get prelims in, and then it would rain, and then they would cancel the finals. But there has been very few over the 14 years where the whole contest was moved indoors in a facility. So, in the whole spectrum of things, it was kind of different, and not that it was special, but it's going to be one that you'll remember, just because of being kind of an anomaly type of situation. So I have some thoughts on you and some memories about you through the program, and one of my best memories is, well, you coming in as a freshman, and you have a very strong tendency to be shy and very quiet. But I've enjoyed watching you develop. I've enjoyed watching you mature as a musician, as a person. One of the things that I think a lot of times with kids that define me and my thoughts with kids and memory with kids are like hurdles or moments where they have to really triumph and really work to develop. And I remember when we were playing at MMA, we were hashing out parts and who was going to play what, because I had a ton of percussion stuff going on in terms of parts. And they ended up giving you the timpani part. And either you just said, yeah, I'll play timpani. And I actually think maybe that was one of your first times or earlier times playing it. And it was probably the instrument was probably a little beyond your developmental reach at that moment. Because I remember you being on that, and I'm like, I was like, can he do this? And and the other guys are like, yeah, I think he can do it. I think so. So we were like, okay, let's go through it. And we were going through our first few rehearsals, and it was kind of a disaster. And we're getting ready to prepare it for the convention, and I'm kind of impatient over things. So we'd go through and play, and then I'm kind of fussing at you about stuff because it's got to be there, and especially on some of the music we were playing, it had huge timpani parts. Really exposed, really important, really intricate, important parts, and you were struggling with them. And then, it came to a point I'm like, okay, so do we pull him off of it with someone else on it? And, the guys were rooting for you, and then you could also tell, it wasn't like you were just sitting around doing nothing. You were working at it, you were pushing at it and grinding at it and doing everything you could. And, we'd go through it, it wouldn't work. And then I'd be crabby at you, no, go work on that. And, so it became this struggle, this uphill battle, this uphill struggle. And, by the end, once we got to that moment where we needed to be, you could come in and play it. And, those are the moments for me with kids that really, I kind of hold on to. Those kind of stories, those kind of moments of triumph where you didn't quit, you didn't give up, you fought through it. Those are the things that I really think about, and then I really remember about kids. And that's the core values, and that's what's inside people's hearts. So, it wouldn't be surprising, that being early in your career in high school, that you would excel. Your musicianship, grew. I would see you playing guitar. You would, play drum set on stuff. You were playing in the pit. It just lent for a really positive experience with you. And, I cherish that. And then you end up joining jazz band, and then, you're excelling in jazz band. We'd have you on guitar one minute, and you'd slip over and play on the drum set. And, it's just a fun time. It was just an amazing experience. And to know where you were in that environment and to see you come along that way. But I think the thing what most surprised me, because a lot of kids can come in and play concert band stuff because that's what they've been doing. But, then coming in, being versatile in jazz band and being productive in that environment, really impressed me more about you. And, and it shouldn't have. I know where you come from. I know what you're made of, and I know your family, and your family's about work, and you're about, getting things done. So that's something that I cherish about you, and will always cherish about you. So, because of your hard work, because of your determination through the year, but also really impressed about your contributions in jazz band and what you've done there, you're receiving the Woody Herman Jazz Award. Congratulations.